Right, on my ticket, 7 o'clock, so we'll make a start. Welcome to the planning meeting on 19th of February 25. Item 1, public participation. Dave, do you want to speak on your item?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm not the agent for the application. He couldn't be here this evening, so I'm just stepping in, although I've been involved in the application from a distance. There's been a lot about parking in the press about the scheme.
Which application is it?
Sorry.
Which application is it?
Sorry.
It's
the Brooks's, I beg your pardon, Brooks's, yes, on the conversion to 9 apartments. Yes, so there's been quite a bit in the papers about parking. We need to wait to see what the highways officer says about the scheme, but he did raise parking as an issue in the pre-app. Most of the comments on the application are about probably just one sentence in the highways report which mentions parking on Victoria Street and Edward Street. I think the guy used those as examples of streets in the area which had unrestricted parking, only as examples. There are lots of other examples of streets in that area where people can park unrestricted, but it was never the intention to imply that this development should, the residents of this development should or could park in those residential streets. It was just an observation. And really, we don't think that any troublesome parking is going to happen on those streets anyway, for a number of reasons. I mean, firstly, not all of the tenants of the properties will have cars. They're not huge apartments, they're not family apartments, they're designed probably for single people, really. So that, there's no families involved. And because it's so close to the town centre with all the facilities and all the public transport and access to everywhere, you could quite happily live there without needing a car. There will also be a selection process, I think, when if permission is granted and they're built and the applicant looks to rent out the properties, I think he will give priority to people who work in the town centre, priority to people who work on the industrial estate, both of which are right on the doorstep, more or less, especially if you can cycle. And there will be cycle storage on the site as well. So the apartments aren't designed for people who rely heavily on the car every day. The applicants having discussions with other landowners who I don't know who they are about the possibility of reaching an arrangement for private permits for a few spaces, which might provide off-street parking for them, but that's a process he's going through. But for those tenants who do have a car, will have a car out of the 9, the central car park is free of charge from 6 p.m. till 8 a.m. Monday to Sunday. So they can park in the evening, and it's literally just down the road. And it is not necessarily expensive for them to park on a Sunday. It's all day, it's £1 on a Sunday. So for the sake of £52, you've got all day parking on a Sunday. There are other 40-minute spaces in the area, on Lower Brook Street in particular. Yes, they're very busy, but you know they still will give the tenants an opportunity to park and run into the flat and run out again. So you know they'll be available as well. So the applicant doesn't want this scheme to be a bad neighbour and to cause problems for residents in the area who, you know, perhaps already struggle to park outside the houses. And for the reasons I've said, we don't think that's going to happen. Looking at more strategic stuff, we really need houses to be built in Oswestry, where the council's currently got a shortage in its 5-year supply. The delivery of housing in Oswestry is woefully behind what it should be, and you know this is bringing an important historic building back into use that no commercial use could be found for it for several years. It's sustainable, it's close to services and facilities, so you know, we think it really deserves some support. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much for that. We'll come to it later on down the agenda. You're welcome to stay if you wish, or we won't be offended if you don't. Okay, item 2, apologies for absence. I've had Mark Jones.
Chair, apologies from Councillor John Price as well and Councillor Moore.
Okay, we're happy to accept that. Thank you. B is the closure of councillors' interests in any matters relating to the code of conduct. We have a little chat with a couple of you prior to the meeting, so it's up to you guys to decide what you want to do. Councillor Owen.
I just wish that, due to a potential view that I have predetermination, I will leave on the item for 69 Church Street.
Okay, thank you. You got that on yet? Councillor Maguire.
And I'll leave the meeting for the Upper Brook Street. Upper Brook Street. Sorry.
Same one.
Yeah, the same one for the.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 2 of them will be leaving, Aaron.
Just because my son's going to be working for the on work experience for the development when the architect.
Okay, item 3, minutes of the meeting we had on the 22nd of January. If somebody wants to approve them or move we adopt. All in agreement? Thank you. And now to the planning applications themselves. Yeah, we will do, yeah. All happy if we do that, yeah? Thank you. Okay, so, yeah, just push the door behind you if you don't mind. Okay, application 25/00414 full, 69 Church Street, Oswestry, conversion of a former pub restaurant to the development of 9 residential apartments. Any comments from anybody here?
Yeah, I've actually asked for this to go before the committee. And obviously parking has been a concern to people in the area, but equally I understand from the applicant's point of view that these matters probably ought to be addressed by a residents' parking area, and that's something we've tried to progress with Shropshire Council. And I do acknowledge that it is the case that other applicants have been made and been successfully made for conversion in the town centre to residential accommodation without car parking having been provided. That said, I think 9 places in that location will produce a significant overload of car parking pressures in that area. We'll wait and see what the highways officer says on that. But even that issue aside, my other major issue is the lack of space, amenity space within the development. The 9 units occupy practically the entirety of the site. It's a little bit like the site that we looked at earlier down on the other side of the town, where there's there's no space to hang out washing, there's no real space, and I think 9 is an over-intensity in this area. I think the original application was for 11, it's been reduced to 9. I think the building probably could to contain about 5 to 7 with ease, and that would accommodate well, but I think 9 is just probably too many. So I would propose that we raise concerns in our comments about over-intensification, lack of external amenity space, and pressures on car parking, and a lack of any provision at all within the development for on-site or permit car parking.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Jonathan?
Can we also add that aside from parking, a lot of these residents might necessarily have furniture. So what provision would there be for vehicles transporting their furniture, be parking, so that, because the residents aren't going to be able to carry beds, chairs, sofas, etc., all the way from Central Car Park up Church Street to this property. So there's no provision made whatsoever, and we run the risk of vehicles parked up, albeit temporarily, during that as well. So can we add that to the concerns raised as well?
Yeah, I take that on board. I don't feel that's a very strong point, because you can park where the little sweet shop or the barber shop used to be, just down there, and I think there's a dentist, so there is room for a vehicle to unload on that there. I take it on board, but I don't think that's a strong point to put on the planning comments. Yeah. Anyone else? Yeah.
I think it's a good point that the gentleman has said over there, that they're looking at some private parking.
Yeah, you're on there, so it's the front one. That's it.
Sorry. I'll repeat that then, that it's a good point that the gentleman said about the application, that they're looking at private parking possibilities, but if that had already been done, it would be in a different situation. If they had managed to sort that out already, it would be a lot stronger, and that indeed is what happens. But also, we are really in need of housing. There's quite a lot of housing in the town centre that doesn't have parking, so it's just what happens if you want parking, and if you want people to live in your town centre, partly that they are going to struggle with getting parking. So I just think that would strengthen it if it was done, before the application. But at the moment, I feel that the amenity space, it is a bit over-intensified. I think the size of the flats is actually okay, because we've had other applications where they're like little rabbit hutches, but this does seem to be quite good. But the fact that they say that they might prioritise single people and things like that, you can't actually do that, or we can't make a judgment, or planning can't make a judgment based on what the applicant says they're going to prioritise. And there are two bedroom flats within it, so presumably they'll be for more than a single person. So I've got some concerns.
Thanks, Chair. I want to say something a little bit more positive, because I think it's great that someone is looking at bringing this building back into use and developing the site a little bit, and providing a type of accommodation that I do think we're lacking in the town. Not everyone drives, not everyone needs a car, and in town centres, people are going to look to live there and take that into consideration. So I think the people who will want to live here may be people without cars and without the need or the wish to have a car. So I don't think it would be as big a problem as people fear. But having said that, we need to make sure that this is got right. But yeah, I would, whatever comments we do make, I would like to say that we are really pleased to see this building being developed, and hope that the planning process will achieve a really good result for Oswestry.
One point I forgot to mention, the cycling, storing bikes in the cellar, I'm just not sure how practical that is, considering people have electric bikes these days. I'm not sure about the route into the cellar, steps, bikes. it did seem to me that the extension, if it was placed on piers, would offer you provision underneath for storage of bikes and a bit more area that people could use for other ancillary purposes. I know you'd then lose some flats on the ground floor there, but that might be a compromise to actually give you a little bit of space in that way. Anyway, it's only I'm not an architect. What do I know? But it just seemed I don't quite buy storage of bikes in cellars. Not many people I know store their bicycle in a cellar and and it's not very practical to get it out from there every day. So, you know, ideally we're looking for some external lock-up store where it's a lot more useful.
Okay, thank you. Right, I get the feeling we need to make some comments. I agree with all the comments, whether they're rightly or wrong, if I'm being honest. There's some points there that I'm sure that can be taken away. I think car parking is one of the main ones, isn't it? You know, they have said they will look at that as a priority, but I do feel that should have been looked at prior to it coming to this stage. So maybe we can make a comment on that, Aaron. We're concerned about the car parking for the facility. The overdevelopment, I've looked at the plan. I do think if they maybe dropped one off or possibly two, it would be better. And then there would be some storage for the bikes and maybe a laundry or something or whatever's needed. Because you haven't got the outside space, there's obviously going to be washing stuff in the flats themselves. I know people manage with that. But if there's maybe an area where that could be undertaken. So can we just make some comments on that, Aaron? Possibly overpopulated the number that they want to put on there. And I think we're about there, are we?
We could add the positive
Yeah.
positive bit as well
Yeah,
about
go-
how
yeah. If we
well
can put some
the-
positives that
Yeah.
we do welcome the flats in Oswestry, and maybe the scheme could just be revised just a little bit to sort of cater for what we feel would be best. Happy with that? Okay, to vote. Are we all in agreement? Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. All right. No, that's okay. All right.
Thank you.
Cheers, Dave. Get the other rebels in. Mm. The little pillar is. Yeah. It's on an angle though, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Set to come in and complain about losing the textual feature, and then I realised it was just. Okay, back to the other application. So we'll start the first one. 250088 full 14-hour close Oswestry, side and rear extension and a conversion of a garage. Right, comments? Yeah, Les?
I just agree with what Duncan's just said. I say no comment. We've not objected to planning applications like this before. It's in keeping. It's only expanding a current property. Obviously, as we've just been discussing prior to the meeting, there is not that many houses in Oswestry that are affordable. So to improve the size of the house, that's in keeping. I see no objections to it.
Okay. My only thought on it was, and you can't really tell for the drawings and they don't really give you measurements anymore, but when you look at the overall plan, how tight it is to the boundaries, but I guess the planning officer will work that one out. So we're happy with no objections? No objections? Okay, thank you. The second one, 2404847, full, 5 and 7 Victoria Road, and they want to put a drop curb in, take the wall out, and make some car parking. Yeah, councillor.
There's one or two properties in the same area that have already done the same thing, and if I'm honest, taking some of the cars off the road there would only improve the traffic flow in the area if they're not on the road. So I see no objections to it, and I would say I'd support it for that reason.
Okay, councillor Owen.
I was just going to say, I haven't seen exactly what they plan to do, but just look at the permeability. If you're adding a massive bit of concrete, you'll start pouring water onto the road.
Councillor.
Yeah,
Sure.
any permission would be on the proviso that it is permeable material. They stipulate that now. You're not allowed just to throw tarmac down anymore, which is obviously a good thing. I mean, you know, you can say it changes the street scene a bit, and it's a shame to lose the original stone walls. But in terms of the safety of the highway, we all know it's a bit of a nasty corner, that one, where you can't see past the parked cars to see if there's any oncoming vehicles, and you know, pedestrians find it a struggle to cross there. So on balance, I wouldn't object.
Yeah, councillor Kent.
I don't object. If you look at the plan, the car only just fits on, doesn't it? I don't know what car they use, but there's quite a few places in town where the cars will end up projecting onto the pavement, which causes obstruction. So I think we need to ensure that I don't know how they enforce that, but that is a problem. And equally, having driven on like that, you're going to be reversing back out onto the road, aren't you? Because there's nobody to reversing in, I suppose. So I'm not objecting, but I think the highways officer should consider the size and whether it's feasible. I don't know. It's just a plan, shows cars butting right up to the pavement, doesn't it?
Thank you, councillor Short.
The observation then is that it's just to make sure, sorry, it's just to make sure that it doesn't pass on the pavement.
Yeah, that overhang the pavement.
Yeah.
There must be part of the pavement, but there'll be a bumper or tow bar or whatever.
One more off councillor Short.
Well, again, it's just because I've been through this process myself, so I have the fairly recent experience, and you know, they ensure that there is sufficient space to get, you know, the average sized vehicle fully off the highway and off the pavement, and also, you know, the highway code does stipulate that you should reverse off the road so that you can emerge in a forward gear back onto the road. Now, I know that people don't always adhere to that. I am religious about that myself. I always reverse onto my space so that I can drive off, and that is meant to be the rule. So, again, you know, that is catered for within the law. It's just whether it's adhered to by the eventual user.
Okay.
The architect of the plan shows cars up and down.
Well, yeah.
I don't know whether Shropshire Council routinely enforce that, but they should require that the service grade should be vertical. That's equally.
Okay, so the comments are, Aaron, to make sure the cars will fit on the plot of land and not overhang onto the footpath, and it's a permeable surface. With suitable drainage.
Can I just add something?
Yeah.
It's a matter of, with the corner that it is, if there's no, like, you do the white bars in front of it to make sure nobody's parking. I just feel if somebody's trying to come out of that and someone's parked just around the corner, it's going to affect the visibility for the people coming out of the driveway as well, because you'd be obstructed. So it's a matter of, I can't see that they've added white bars in with the planning application. I'm not sure if you can do that.
I think we need to put it to the planning officer, highways, to make sure it's suitable. Because they will do visibility checks and things as well.
That's right.
Shame to see the wall go, but probably be reused. Nice stone, isn't it? Are we all in agreement with the comments? Yeah. Lovely, thank you. Okay, the next one. 2404787. Viscount Bridgeman Court, Osler Street, biomass boiler store within an enclosed fenced area.
It's already there. Yeah, I thought that. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me speaking on this, I've actually driven, well, obviously it's out just on our wards. But they put a planning application, it's retrospective, it's not a planning application, because it's already there. And in fact, there was a lorry there last Tuesday or Wednesday, filling it up with its chippings. So,
Proposed
It is.
street. They've just
This
taken a
should be-
photo from the street. I mean,
how do we go about this? Because, well, yeah, how do we go about this? Because they put a planning application in, but it should be a retrospective planning application, not a full planning
Can we
application.
just make a comment, Aaron?
I move no comment, we welcome it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
We all in agreement, no comment? Okay, thank you. Let them get away with that.
Technically, a retrospective application is just an application. There is no separate law that says if it's retrospective, it goes through a different process. It's still just an application. The risk is if it doesn't get approved, you have to take down what you built, but there isn't a separate route for retrospective applications.
Okay, the next one, 2500262, 103 Cabin Lane, change of use from C3 dwelling to C2 children's care home. I thought there might have been some members of the public here tonight, but there's not. There's been a bit of things going around on the social media regarding it, from both sides really. The neighbours don't want it, but everybody else does, so open to the floor. Yeah, Councillor Stewart.
Yeah, I do understand people's concerns, but the fact is that we are so short of good quality accommodation for children in care, and you know, I think we have to cautiously welcome this development, because you know it could end up being used by some children who really need a good home, and somewhere secure and safe in a nice area, to give them a better start in life than they'd otherwise be getting. So I hope that people's concerns are taken into account and that this is done well. But if done well, then it should not be a problem at all, and it could you know transform lives. So I would cautiously welcome this development.
Thank you. Councillor Kerr.
Obviously a bit biased on the Children's Improvement Board, so I know the importance and indeed the quality of the accommodation the council does offer when it can offer it, and the costs and the poor accommodation it has to procure from the private sector. By looks of this is just 2 or 3 children. There's only 2 beds with ensuite, and there's 1 bed without an ensuite, which is unusual in this style of accommodation. I can only imagine that's for somebody temporarily, and the staff presence 24 hours a day. So I think in terms of the impact on the neighbours, it's possibly less than some family homes in the area. It is extremely well managed, and there's a whole inspection regime there if there are any problems to deal with it as well. So I'd urge council to support this, because we've got children, from Oswestry area who can't be accommodated here, and we'd wish them to be accommodated here if they can be.
Thank you. Councillor Upton.
Presumably there would be correct channels for residents to go through should any poor behaviours from any of the residents be discovered. Would it be a case of saying no objection on the provision that the authorities give them the correct instruction on what to do?
We're here looking at it as a planning application. You can't attach such conditions to the planning application, because in theory, once you give it planning permission, it could be sold to a private operator. It's just a planning status, so you can't attach it to the fact is the council even, because as I say, once it changes its permission, it changes its permission. But you've got a whole structure in terms of Shropshire Council, what councillors and officers and the complaints procedure and ombudsman. But if you don't want to go through that, then there's a whole state inspection of all residential homes, including council residential homes, and that encompasses how they manage issues around neighbours as well. So it's inspected to death, I think. And so it should be. These are very, very important institutions that we maintain high quality. So, there is a comprehensive regime there. I think the only thing we might say to people is try and talk to somebody who actually lives near one of these locally, because I think they will allay your fears. I've worked obviously in these sorts of homes, and neighbours, they're often in the middle of quite posh housing estates, and neighbours, don't come knocking at the door to say there's problems. it seems to be, yeah, I think people have a misconception of what these places are like, probably based on television programmes or history or something else.
Councillor Maguire?
Just to say, obviously, I've had contact from a few residents, and there's one or two of the residents that had their concerns on this have now had their concerns put to rest a little bit. A little bit more information was given to them, and it did reassure them a little bit. There are still residents out there that are still concerned on this development. But I do agree with Councillor Isherwood as that we should approach this, you know, should be agreed to, but on caution. I have two of these children's homes, if you like, if that's what we can call them, by my property. And one's for children with special needs, and we don't get issues from them. And there's the other one that we've just had planning for, which is up, what's the name of that? Yeah, Bryn Hafford Lane. And again, we don't have problems with that area either. So as long as it's managed properly, I don't see it being a problem. I think, like I say, the residents that did have concerns have now had their concerns put to rest.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Just on the back of that, there was a development in Whittington probably 2 years ago now, and that was for up to 5 children, young adults, 16 to 18, 19, to get them out of the children's home into managing themselves. And we had quite a lot of local residents, same thing, very concerned. There's been no trouble whatsoever. In fact, some of the residents I do see now and again said, thanks for alleviating our concerns once they had the information. I mean, they're Ofsted run, and if there's any problem whatsoever, they're out, and the people in there know that. Yeah. So they're very, very well regulated. So I think it is a good thing. So to the vote, are we all...
Come back to Councillor Duncan's comment. There is going to be 3 residents, I think, if I remember rightly reading. 3 employees living on site. So obviously that will be pro rata. So there'll always be somebody on site looking after and monitoring these children. So,
Yeah, yeah. So to the vote, are we all in favour? Yeah, yeah.
Recognising it's a small development and there's a shortage of good quality accommodation for children who need care in Shropshire.
Yeah. All in agreement? Lovely, thank you. Okay, the next one, 25002444, 13 Hampton Close, Oswestry, extension and alterations. Any comments? All in agreement, no comment? Okay, no comment. Okay, 2500357. It's a TPO for the bungalow, 2 Bryn Hafford Drive, Oswestry, and it's to fell 2 black conifers, will look rather large. I don't like to see big old trees being fallen really, unless it's absolutely necessary. Yeah, Jonathan?
Do we need to go down the usual route and recommend consultation with the tree officer?
Yeah. I would agree with that on this one. You know, maybe they can be lopped a bit or whatever, less so rotten in the bottom. I don't know why they want to take them out really, but there we are. Yep.
I'm reluctant to be, I'll be opposed until we have a report from the tree officer. I mean, if the tree officer identifies problems with the trees, then I may well change my mind, but if there isn't a problem with the tree, I can't see we could be supportive of a tree protected by a preservation order being felled.
Yeah, I think that's...
I'm happy to reconsider that if the tree is diseased or threat or danger or whatever, but unless I'm given that information, I'm going to say I'm opposed to it.
I haven't seen one.
It does say that they're going to plant a new tree in its place, but the problem is, will that tree survive? Will they keep planting the tree till it survives? Is that just, you know, I don't mean to cast aspersions, but
I think we
once that
bounce
tree's
it.
gone.
I think we bounce it back
yeah,
to the tree officer.
I think I'm concerned that they're, getting rid of a lovely old tree.
If I say something like councillors seeing a valid reason for the tree to be felled and seek reassurance from the tree officer to kind of undertake the application, something like that.
Yeah, that'd be fine. All in agreement?
Yeah.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, we've done 69 Church Street, so local one for us now, 2500363, to fly the Pride flag for a month in June. My personal comments, I'm not against it. I think a month is too long when we have war days and memorial days that we barely put a flag up for 24 hours. But that's just a personal thing in my opinion, so open to the floor.
I was listening to reports the other day, obviously, please correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the LGBTQ plus, I can't remember all of them, they've dropped some, they've dropped some of the letters off of them. I'm not sure which ones, so we need if we do go for this, we need to make sure that this flag is a current up-to-date one, because the LGBTQ have taken away some of the other ones. If any councillors know more information than me on that, I was listening to something the other day, so I just I don't know the full ins and outs.
I see this. So you've obviously got your flat flag policy, which you've agreed. So you've already agreed to apply it for the month. So if this is so you can't really
No.
object to a decision that you've made already. Yeah. But this is an alternative. I see this as this is a flag that's different to the Pride flag.
Yeah.
As the council name. And therefore you have to apply for planning permission. So, but if it's anything different to the Pride flag means it. So I think it gives us the flexibility to adapt, choose a different flag, use a different flag.
That's fair enough.
But you can't go that way. You can only go that way.
Okay, councillor Kerr.
Yeah, I think we're drifting into matters which aren't related to planning. I mean, yes, there's a debate as to whether we apply it for a month or not. That's a debate the council has to have. But in planning policy terms, I don't think you can really have that debate because it's not in planning policy terms that's to dictate how long the flag is flown for, just whether that flag can be flown in planning policy terms. I just looked back at the tree, by the way, there is no, I mean, it says in the, sorry, it says very clearly in the application, they need an agricultural tree officer's report if they're going to prepare, and they haven't provided one.
Anyone else?
I think we just need to support our own application. This is the preferred flag by the LGBT plus community at the moment, the Progress flag. It's the one that is accepted as the one people want to fly, and it's Pride Month, which is why it's flown for a month, whereas Remembrance Day is Remembrance Day rather than Remembrance Month. So that's why it's a month.
That's fine, we're all in agreement? Okay. No observations. Yeah. They probably wouldn't notice anyway. Okay, and the final sheet, I'll just read them. There's the Powis Hall replacement of the canopy. Farr and Harris was a variation of condition 2, which was the size of the storage container for the batteries. 14 Oak Drive, rear side and rear extension, and Morrison's the green wall jobby on the front of the shops. All that's been granted, so there's 4 granted permissions. And that's the end of the planning for this evening. Thank you all for your comments.